Captain's Log, Day of Discovery. Today, our junior crew members declared their independence. While the young cadets explored uncharted territory, the Admiral and I discovered the Fountain of Youth. Later, we were treated to a royal banquet, and after a brief skirmish with pirates, we celebrated with cannon fire.
Disney Cruise Line. When it comes to pleasing everyone, the difference is Disney.
Hi, Mike Jacobi here, inviting you to join us again for Jazz Tonight as we kick off the 2015 season. This year, the Summer of Sinatra, dedicated to old Blue Eyes, celebrating his 100th birthday. Each week, we'll be bringing you a new artist that's appearing in town, look behind the scenes and find out what they've got going on in the recording studio and find out what else is going on live in their lives. Jazz Tonight, right here on KCAT. Hello and welcome to Jazz Tonight. I'm Michael Jacobi, executive producer of Jazz on the Plazz and host of Raising the Standards on KSCO Radio in Santa Cruz. We are continuing towards our march, the end of our tribute to Frank Sinatra for this 2015 season of Jazz on the Plazz. And as we enter week 8, I could not be happier because Bria Skonberg is here. Hello, Bria.
Hello, Michael.
I'm delighted that you're here, and I'm going to tell you a story how this all came together.
Okay.
Is somebody, I'm always good, you know who you need to book. And I got a call from somebody who says, do you know anything about Bria Skonberg? I said, no, I'll Google her. Which always sounds so rude.
Hey.
But, so I Googled, we hadn't even met. And there is a marvelous, you and I talked about it yesterday, there's a marvelous line that's in a review that said, she is a cross between Louis Armstrong and Doris Day.
Yeah.
Now, my only hope that it didn't refer to Louis Armstrong's voice and Doris Day's trumpet.
Right.
But it didn't. So I worked out, looked at the videos, and I said to myself, this is going to be my sleeper. Mm-hmm. And a sleeper at Jazz on the Plazz is a person that maybe a lot of people aren't aware of, but will never forget.
Cool.
With that introduction having been said, welcome to Los Gatos.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good to have you.
Yep, it's exciting.
Now, you're from Canada, and your passport's got to be about full. You've been around a lot these days.
Yeah, well, yes, my about is actually, I'm kind of a mixture now. I grew up in Chilliwack in British Columbia, and I went to college in Vancouver, and I actually moved to New York City almost 5 years ago now. So yeah, and hit a lot of different places along the way, traveled the world, and just making music, and so. So
you haven't lost your accent, but your attitude's changed.
I've added to it. Yeah.
Well, what people don't realize, I mean, you do the cliche of hockey and fishing and all those things. Canada, and specifically Toronto, is like a great jazz town.
Sure. Oh yeah, there's lots of wonderful people, and again, the college that I went to, the instruction was really good. And my hometown had a jazz festival. Like, so this little town nestled in the Fraser Valley had a jazz festival, and so that's how I got started, because I could see real musicians, real professionals playing the kind of music that I was trying to play in school, and having that like real live interaction is what really drew me into it.
Well, we a few years ago we had Sophie Millman here, who was just a lovely vocalist.
Lovely.
And I was telling you, I caught, and I'm going to try and get him here next year, Denzel Sinclair, when I was in New York, and boy, he's terrific.
Oh yeah, he's a real gem in the Vancouver, not just jazz scene, I think, just all the music that's made there. Classically
American. Out of millions of people, you think there would be a few talented ones.
Yeah.
So go figure. Tell me about growing up in Canada. Growing up, what was the household like? A lot of music?
Yeah. So I grew up on what we call a hobby farm. My parents were teachers, but they decided that they would buy a 2-acre plot of land and have 3 kids and a couple of cows and some chickens and all that. A really interesting experience. So it was a beautiful place to grow up, and also we had a lot of space to make a lot of noise. Yeah. And my older brother Eric started on fiddle, and he switched to saxophone. My sister Dana, we both started on piano actually. Then she went to flute in the school band. We had a drum set, we had guitars, just instruments around. So every time there was a birthday party or like a Christmas get together, we just jam, and
now, were your folks musicians as well?
My dad played a little bit of trumpet back in high school, and my mom played a little bit of piano as well. So they have an appreciation for it. These days they love dancing to it. If they could come to all my gigs, they'd just be the ones in the front dancing, which is really cool. But it was always, the atmosphere for me was always just like, hey, let's play, like the real playing part of music.
So a little girl in Canada on a hobby farm.
Yeah.
Is it? We had the obligatory piano lessons.
Yes.
Piano in the house.
Yep.
Did your mom play?
My mom played, yeah, a little bit.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So, and did you play in a band in high school? Did you have a rock and roll band?
You know, I played in a ska band.
Yeah.
I played in a ska band called The Good Life, and ska is like, it's kind of like old jazz with distortion added to it, and rock and roll, and yeah, I joined the concert band and then the jazz band. And what was cool about Chilliwack again, the band program had a lot of different facets. We had a handbell choir and the trad jazz bands, and now they have an R&B choir. They had a percussion ensemble, and then they had a steel drum band and guitar ensemble, and just lots of different kinds of music, getting so many people involved.
Yeah.
Again, so I always loved the music, but I was also really involved with sports and student council and a lot of things that kind of bubbled into this melting pot of a skill set that you need to be an entrepreneur musician these days. So I feel very lucky that all that came together.
How old were you when you started piano?
Piano, I think I was 7.
7.
And then trumpet, 7th grade, so I was 11, turning 12.
Because you were fed up with the piano, you were inspired by Miles, or what happened?
Well, maybe I did see the kids in the jazz band.
Okay, I mean, it's an unusual instrument for a woman.
Trumpet?
Yeah.
I guess so.
I mean, particularly for a solo. Well, maybe it's just based on popularity, but you don't see a lot of solos.
You know what?
in jazz.
For me, when I joined band, there were 4 other girls playing trumpet in middle school. There were 3 other girls playing trumpet in high school, and there were 3 or 4 of them in college. It never seemed so special to me, and I think mainly because I wasn't treated differently. The teachers didn't treat me differently because I was a girl. You know, if anything, you just kind of use that as your motivation to play harder and play stronger.
But you were doing primarily classical then?
No, I didn't actually get private instruction until I got to college, which maybe I should have.
Yeah.
But it makes for a real authentic sound.
But what drew you to jazz?
Again, the festival in the hometown and the jazz band just
And
at
what
the
kind
school.
of, so you as a little girl, I mean, it's totally cool.
Yeah.
Your folks would take you and you just hang out at the festival, and
Yeah.
pretty big names would come to the festival?
There are big names in the traditional jazz circuit. The one that made the biggest impression on me was this band from Australia called, I think they're Hotter Than 6, and the cornet player was a guy named Simon Stribling from Australia, and eventually he moved to BC and became my mentor.
Okay.
When I turned around 15, I kind of got hooked up with him, and he put really great music like Roy Eldridge, Clark Terry, Django Reinhardt, a little bit more sophisticated but still older style of jazz music into my ears, and would invite me to come and sit in on his gigs, again going into these clubs in Vancouver on a school night and getting to play. But I'm so glad to have had that experience.
Now, did you, were you writing your own stuff at that time? Now, did you write poetry in high school, or did you write? No, sir. Or did
Not
you write
poetry.
lyrics?
I'm laughing because I'm thinking about what is the diary of a high school teenage girl, who's not very exciting. But I actually didn't write too much music until I got through college. A little bit. I loved singing, but I was more interested in the music of the day, pop or hip hop and rock, and then also some of the jazz standards, big band. I mean, there's so much available to us these days. It's hard not to. I just treat music like food, like just try it all, and unless you have an allergic reaction or something, then
Well, one of the marvelous things, obviously, about jazz is that if you have an ear for it, and our friend Paula West is doing a tribute to Bob Dylan, where 10 years ago nobody ever thought of that.
Right.
But you can take things, even hip hop things, and take them and give a jazz styling to them.
Yeah, well, the people that are listening and concert goers this time at this age aren't the people that grew up with jazz music in the 20s and 30s aren't really around as much anymore. So jazz is kind of adapting to this way to, again, reach more people that are in the audience today. I mean, maybe there's more baby boomers and people that did grow up with like Elvis and Bob Dylan and so on. And so the trick is, how do you take the jazz music of the past and some ideas from today and maybe meld them together in a way that still respects and serves the music. And so we have a couple of songs in our book that I've done specifically that kind of like you sample a little of each song but still make it kind of fall into the jazz umbrella.
Well, and we've talked about this on the show, and not to be elitist from a south of the border standpoint, but the Great American Songbook, which is maybe great, but not necessarily American. And certainly didn't end with Rodgers and Hart. And since then, Jimmy Webb and a whole lot, and that's just the beginning. And one of the great CDs was Johnny Cash's last CD, who came out and did 9 Inch Nail tunes and did things that you wouldn't expect. And that's what's such a joy about that music.
I like that kind of approach. I mean, it's not for everybody.
Sure.
Louis Armstrong said there's only 2 kinds of music, good and bad.
Yeah.
And I feel like if music is being made from a place of, you know, just real authenticity, that if you love what you're doing and you're playing it with passion, and, you know, how you want to define jazz is a bigger conversation, but I'm all for, you know, fusing things together if that's what interests you.
You did Dixieland for a while, and may well still do some.
Yeah, well, I think.
Which is all part of the all part of the roux.
Yeah, more so. I feel that I was really lucky to have gotten that training early on, because Dixieland pertains to a time that people aren't all fond of. But let's take it back to New Orleans style jazz. So the ensemble playing of New Orleans style jazz is in the front. You have a trumpet, a trombone, and a clarinet usually, and those 3 voices have specific roles. It's like a sports team, in that trumpet plays the melody, trombone plays tailgate, kind of fills, and the clarinet noodles or harmonizes. But it's actually a very sophisticated style of playing that people don't know that until you have to play it, because it can sound like a mess, or it can sound like carefully crafted individual arrangements that happen on the spot. And so what's exciting with the band that's playing here today is the clarinet player is a friend of mine. We've been playing together for 15 years, and we know each other so well that it's just collective improvising a lot of the times. But we treat it as a conversation. We treat it as if we're like arranging a new piece at the moment. And so for me, learning the music of Dixieland is about keeping your ears open and how to make an ensemble work, and not just kind of go play the melody and then everybody take a solo. Okay, I'll just walk off stage for 8 minutes, you solo. It's not about that. It's about playing together.
Well, by the time this version or this edition of Jazz Tonight airs, you'll be back in Canada, no doubt, and certainly a household word around here, because I know you're going to wow them. What will have been by the time folks watch this last week? It's very confusing. We, speaking of voice, at what point did you put the trumpet down and pick the microphone up?
Well,
I mean, was it same time?
Yeah, they grew together somewhat gradually. I think I always loved singing. I mean,
Did that make you a better singer?
It's air support.
Yeah.
It's air support. I always loved singing. I mean, you know, you're a young girl. People love to sing, but I didn't have the confidence to do it openly until about 9th grade. I talked into trying out for a musical and ended up singing openly with people, and then it parlayed into singing with a big band at school and singing with one of the local neighborhoods. And so I just had opportunities to perform and opportunities to build up the repertoire, and you know, there's nothing better than singing. It's the most natural. You know, it's fun whether you do it by yourself or whether you do it in front of other people.
But you have seen and experienced both sides of the coin in terms of being a backup as part of an orchestra, and then also stepping out front as the vocalist.
Sure.
Was that daunting at the beginning?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a comfort. I would think there's a comfort with a bunch of horns and a bunch of people that were sitting together playing.
Even the
now it's me.
Yeah, even the feeling of, you know, when I go out and I sing and I have my trumpet because I'm going to play, that's totally different than when I have to go out and sing without my trumpet, because then it's just you, and that there's no barrier between you and the people out there, and it can be a scary thing. And I think just for me, that journey has just been having more opportunities to do it and then feeling more comfortable with it.
You have traveled and performed around the world. There are certain iconic spots in our business to perform, one of which is Monterey that we're going to get you at. Another is Los Gatos, which we've taken care of.
Hooray!
And Newport Jazz. Tell me about, you opened Newport Jazz Festival, which is, I think Monterey may be the oldest, or it's the second oldest, but it has such a history where Bob Dylan actually plugged in his guitar, where Anita O'Day sang Sweet Georgia Brown. Remarkable. Tell me about the experience.
Well, Newport celebrated 60 years this year, and we got the invitation because I had met George Wein through something of a Louis Armstrong type event I was playing in New York City. So really learning that traditional jazz stuff has just opened so many doors. It's overwhelming to think about. But so we got the invitation to Newport, and the same band that's playing here today was there just over a week ago, and it was amazing to drive over those bridge and see the scene unfold, because you mentioned Anita O'Day, and for me, I fell in love with Anita O'Day, and I got to know a bit about that festival by seeing a clip of the movie Jazz on a Summer's Day.
Right.
She sings Sweet Georgia Brown and Tea for Two, and we actually do because of all that, we do a specialty version of Tea for Two in our set.
Good.
So you won't know this. This will be old news by the time you watch this, but they'll get to enjoy it tonight. We'll talk about it, especially that.
We're talking to Bria Skonberg, who is appearing at Jazz on the Plazz as we continue our Summer of Sinatra. We're going to take a quick break and be back in just a few.
Hi, Michael Jacobi here, executive producer of Jazz on the Plazz, a production of Los Gatos Music and Arts. You know, people often ask me how can they help support us, and in doing so, help keep jazz alive. Well, a couple of ways. One, you could get a corporation and give us $500,000. Now, it was worth a shot. Or two, you could buy some reserved seats. You buy some of the merchandise. And this year, with our tribute to Frank Sinatra, there's some wonderful Fedora logoed wine glasses along with shirts. And best of all, you could either check out the gala with the 4 freshmen or buy a jazz card. Now, the jazz card is just $100, a mere C note, and there's $700 worth of value on it. All right, you give me 1 minute and these glasses, and I'll tell you exactly what you get. All right, start the clock. Go to Willow Street. It's good for 1 free pizza and a side salad. Go to Main Street Burgers. Good for a free burger, fries, and soda. Nothing But Cakes. Good for buntinis. Go to Verge, the new restaurant at the Toll House, and get a free breakfast entree. Los Gatos Roasting Company. Free breakfast crepe and a large coffee. You can even get a horseback riding lesson at Bright Ranch in San Martin. Go to Rootstock, a sampler appetizer plate. At Skin Spirit, the new folks in town, it's good for 1 skin rejuvenating chemical peel. Jazz on the Plazz, a couple of VIP entries. Billy's Boston Chowder House, good for a free Boston Cioppino lunch. Classic Car Wash, a classic car wash. What else? Arthur Murray, 1 free dance lesson. Centonove, good for a free tiramisu. The Cats, a half a rack of ribs with a side. Chin Chin, free truffle fries. Gardino's, good for a free appetizer. And finally, Testarossa Winery, it gets you 2 passes for wine tasting and a couple of invites to an artesian wine cheese experience. $700 for just a $100 investment. Now it's your chance to help keep jazz alive and help the good folks at Los Gatos Music and Arts keep on keeping on. Come on.
And welcome back to Jazz Tonight. I'm Michael Jacobi, executive producer of Jazz on the Plazz, a production of Los Gatos Music and Arts. Continue our conversation with the lovely and talented Bria Skonberg. You're living in New York these days.
I am. It's been
Off the hobby farm into the big city.
Yeah, just a short little step over there with
Hop,
a
skip,
few
and a
stops
clap
along the
shot.
way. Yeah. Yes, I've been there for almost 5 years. It'll be 5 years in September.
Lower East Side.
Lower East Side. Yeah, I moved to Brooklyn first and had that arts experience, and then just managed to get to a spot in Manhattan, which is great because most of my work is in Manhattan.
Well, now, yeah, I mean, in the list, you got Birdlight, you got the Vanguard, you got the Blue Note, you got Jazz Standard. And have you played Dizzy's?
I have played Dizzy's. Yep.
What's the theater that overlooks Central Park? It's part of Time Warner. It's part of.
That's Dizzy's.
No, Dizzy's is next to. There's a.
Not the.
It's like a rose room. It's not the.
You know, it's called the Appel Room now.
Appel.
Bob Appel Room.
Yes.
Yeah, we just had an award.
Have you done a gig there?
I got an award from Lincoln Center
my
this year, and they
God.
had the celebration there about a month ago.
I've seen Feinstein there a couple times.
Yeah.
What a terrific venue.
Yeah, we got to play in the Rainbow Room
The
once
Rainbow
too,
Room?
on
Great
top of
fun.
the rock. The band,
Yeah.
although it was kind of cloudy that day, so we were in a cloud, and then eventually it dispersed.
How do you not love New York being in jazz?
It's wild. I mean, it's a never-ending, exciting list of tunnels. You'll never be bored there. It's always renewing, and there's so much inspiration to be found.
I've been
love
going
it.
every May for 30 years.
Ah,
I
neat.
still
Good to
have
know.
not retraced any steps. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So, talk to me a little bit about, first of all, your website. Folks want to find out more about
Sure.
you, which is how I did it, and rather than just Google you, if we cut to the chase.
Right.
How do they do
The
it?
easiest way is to Google Bria, B-R-I-A, Bria Trumpet,
Okay.
And so it's briaskonberg.com, but sometimes it's easier than spelling my last name. So I'm
And
easy to find.
can you buy CDs? How many CDs have we got?
I have 2 CDs that have been released since I got to the United States, and they're on Random Act Records. It's a lot of original music, a little bit of old stuff done in a new way too. Yeah, those are available there. I'm on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram.
Now,
Everything you have to
did
be
you have
on
a
there.
contract in Canada? Do you have
For the
applying
record?
that you have CDs in Canada?
Right. Yeah. So
Can you get those online?
a lot of them, you might be able to find some of them. I had a band for over 10 years that was a traditional jazz band, and we released about 8 albums. And I did one, you might be able to find it on CD Baby. One called Fresh was my first solo album. It has kind of big band hits and stuff. So yes, the ones that I have physically with me now are the 2 on Random Act. And as soon as I get back from this trip, I'm going into the studio again, and I'm recording a new album with some kind of songs of exotic nature.
Your own?
There'll be more covers.
Okay.
Kind of 8, 9 jazz, not so standard tunes, and then some original ones.
Give me a couple of cuts.
So, well, what are we playing tonight? We're playing Egyptian Fantasy by Sidney Bechet. It's kind of a cool tune. I'm doing, let's see, the original ones we're playing tonight, How Can It Be? And I have a really cool version of Malaguena, which is an old Cuban composed song. So, yeah, I Was a Little Too Lonely, You Were a Little Too Late, Nat King Cole songbook. It's a kind of a mixture of things. But I actually have a crowdfunding campaign going on now too. You can find that on the website. About.
Now, how does that work? I mean,
It's basically
people investing in you.
Yeah, nowadays it's kind of a do-it-yourself. You can't always count on a label to be there. So the way that the Pledge Music is set up is it's pre-ordering the album.
Okay.
So you pay, I don't know what it is, maybe $20, and you get the CD when it's ready. But all the while you get the updates.
Oh,
so like today, I'm working on music. I'm going to give a little update to the people that have already pledged. But you can have a different amount, or you can buy an experience like a house concert or.
Give me a ballpark figure to produce a CD these days.
Man.
I know it's quite a range.
It can be anything.
Minimum
it can be anything.
15, 20 grand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That would be the minimum, and that's roughly what I've asked for.
Yeah.
The reality is, I'm saving up money like crazy because if I have to pay for marketing and promotion, all that stuff, it's 30, 40.
Wish list. What have tunes that perhaps a lot of male singers will say, I want to do Lush Life, but it's too early.
Ooh.
But I mean, are there tunes that you feel that I'd love to do at some point in my career, but I'm not ready yet to do it?
Oh, that's interesting. That's a good question.
Well, it's been 15 minutes, about time.
Yeah. What's that song? There is a song I heard Lynn Roberts do, and Frank Sinatra did a version of it. It's something. I'll remember it probably after this interview's over. It's the whole like looking back on your life type of thing, and you have to have some years on you to be able to sing it.
Yeah. It was a very good year, or something like that.
I think that was it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Something like that.
You have been kind enough to bring your trumpet with you, today, and I
Don't say
appreciate
that
it.
now.
It just happened to be sitting here, which worked out. Arguably, the finest written American song would be something by Hoagy Carmichael and Parrish, and Stardust.
I will not argue with you on that. That is probably my favorite song. And a little anecdote about that.
Sure, tell me one.
The original name of that, the Hoagy Carmichael wrote, The Melody of Stardust, The Barnyard Shuffle.
Really?
I'm not kidding. The original title is The Barnyard Shuffle. And Mitchell Parrish, his college friend, said, well, let's slow it down.
Yeah.
I'll write some words. And then that came out. So I don't know if that maybe brings it full circle with my hobby farm
when
roots.
Sinatra did Sinatra and Strings with Don Costa and did Stardust, he did it without the verse, which was very interesting, which you rarely hear because you're so used to the high in the garden string. And all that.
Yeah, actually maybe we'll get him to sing that tonight. Try my best.
That is just
The Barnyard Shuffle.
Isn't that fun? I mean, it's analogous to taking an oil painting and saying, let's turn it over. Oh, that looks better that way. And that's like that. It's like, if we slowed it down, it might make more sense.
Oh, there's more reason the collaborations are a good idea.
We talked about we doing okay time-wise? We got a couple minutes? We talked about Anita O'Day and some early influences. I'm assuming Ella and Carmen are among those, and Billy.
Yeah, really, Anita O'Day is the one that I really dug into,
Yeah.
and the reason being, when you listen to her, she really phrases like a horn player. Like, she can sing the melody straight, and then she'll take it for 3 more choruses, just manipulating the melody. And as a trumpet player, it's really fun to listen to her.
From a trumpet playing standpoint, I mean, the obvious guess is Miles, but I'm thinking Clark Terry must have been a big influence.
I love Clark Terry. I think my big 3
Did
are...
you meet him?
I did meet him, but
I
I met
saw
him
him
like after a show.
I saw him at the Blue Note in New York when he was in a wheelchair performing.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I knew him, but my big 3 are Louis Armstrong, Clifford Brown, Clark Terry.
Clifford Brown.
Oh, his Stardust. If nobody's heard that, whew. Heartbreaking.
Clifford Brown was what, 25 when he died?
Yeah, something
He died
like
in a
that.
car accident.
I really love swing players in the 1940s, like when they're influenced by bebop, so you can hear the harmonic stuff, but also have a fire behind them. So Charlie Shavers was an amazing trumpet player. Ruby Braff, a little bit later on, as a cornet player. I mean, I've been studying with this great cornet player named Warren Vacher in New York.
Sure.
He played with Rosemary Clooney and a bunch of greats. So I like, and then there's Dizzy Gillespie. I think I like fiery trumpet players. Chet Baker. Oh, I don't know. That's different, but.
Well, Chet, in terms of vocalist and a player.
Singing trumpet players. I was trying to think of a few. Someone was asking me.
Jack Sheldon, I guess, in a strange way.
Louis Prima.
That's right. Prima did play trumpet. Right? I don't think of him doing
King
that.
Louis, Jungle Book.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about those sounds. When you hear a trumpet, do you say to yourself, because just as there is an arrangement with you're not going to do an arrangement exactly the same as Sinatra did because it's been done.
Right.
The same thing with the trumpet. Who most influenced you? Were there things that you just, for instance, Miles, there are things that he did, because there's 9 Miles, in terms of different sounds.
What I like about Miles Davis, and they released a new legacy recording off of Sony Records of his at the Newport Festival this year. Years and years of him, is that he was such an artist. He was like a painter.
Yeah.
And there's 9 different versions. He never settled on just one thing. He would see other things and he would go for it. And he would try to fuse those things or just follow what his inspiration was. And he didn't care if people kind of said, "Oh, I liked your earlier stuff better." He just did what pleased him. So I think of him as an adventurer, as a painter, and his spirit.
I love that independence. But Miles was a little bit like Coltrane. When he needed some money, they did a ballad album.
Right.
Sold a bunch, and they went back to doing what they wanted to do.
It's nice to have the options. Not everybody has that option. Sure. But yeah, I think. That's what I get out of him, and same with Louis Armstrong had a huge sound, but he was also an incredible human being, an ambassador to people and of peace and stuff. And so I think when you have the opportunity to reach people like we do today, it may be playing for lots of people. What is the thing you want to impart on them, and so I take those things to heart too. It's not just about the music.
They're in Ken Burns' jazz series,
it's great,
which should be required viewing for anyone who wants to learn. I'll try to tell the story without misting up, but there's a marvelous story about Louis Armstrong when he got married. I think he was 24.
Which time? Oh, the first time.
Yeah, the first time. But and it was Christmas, and there was a tree, and he never had one. Yeah, it was his first year that says, "Oh, there's a Christmas tree."
Oh
And
yeah.
he never had one growing up.
Yeah, and I have a good relationship actually with the museum out in Queens.
Which is wonderful.
Yeah, it's cool.
Which is so cool.
What we're talking about is it's the house that he grew up in. Or no, sorry, excuse me. The house that he died in, opposite. But they have kept it exactly as it was, and the fact was he was a rock star, he was a superstar. He could have had a mansion in California, but he had a nice, just modest building in Queens. And so you can see that the man matches the music, and that's really.
And I will say this because you and I will be the only people that relate to this unless you've been to the museum and Lewis's house. But the kitchen is so cool,
right?
Because all the appliances are done.
That was all Lucille.
It's like in a turquoise that you would only see on a Plymouth.
And on
but it was like car painting.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was extraordinary. And the toaster and everything was all exactly the same.
She had to have her place.
Yeah, and I guess they finished the garden, and now they're doing.
There's concert series. One of my you know, the most exciting kind of things I've been able to do is play music in Louis Armstrong's backyard.
Yeah.
It's moving to New
I
York.
saw him once, very
Really?
late in his career in the early 70s. And,
Yeah.
yeah, as Louis said, some musician complained about there not being any work. He says there's plenty of work.
Yeah. Well, that's,
Just
I mean,
go do it.
right. You got to do it and you got to hustle, and that rings true today. I mean, you get out of it what you put into it.
Every year at Jazz on the Plazz, the following season, we bring back somebody that wowed the audience. So you never know. This may be the first of a couple interviews.
Oh man, put in a good word.
I hope so.
Thank you so
I
much.
know the guy.
Yeah, I know the guy.
Bria Skonberg, delighted to
Thank
have
you.
you here.
Thank you.
Excited about tonight, and if you're watching this show, you should kick yourself if you missed it and didn't see the live performance. That's Jazz Tonight. A big thank you to the good folks at Disney Cruise Lines, to the Direct Travel Group, formerly the Peak Travel Group, to the good folks at Los Gatos Music and Arts. Until next time, I'm Jacobi. I'll see you soon.